Welcome everyone. Welcome. If you can hear me, please type a yes in the chat. For those of you who just joined in, right, make sure you mute yourself first. If you have questions, we will open up the floor towards the end of the session and you may unmute and ask there. Okay, sounds good. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Who's this? Okay, so it's already 9 a.m. EST sharp. So and we have Eder Mage and Everything MT, our CEO and COO here with us. So yeah, let's get started. So hi everyone, I'm Pav. We are very happy to see so many of you joining today's town hall. If you guys can hear me, please give me a yes in the chat. Okay, cool. All right. So for those of you who just joined in, please make sure you mute yourself throughout the session. If you have any questions, we will open up the floor towards the end of the session, and you may unmute yourself and ask later. All right. So let's start today's session. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to all of our community members who supported us from the very first day until today. Also, thank you for joining today's call. Let me first explain the agenda for today's town hall. All right, today we have our CEO Jensen and COO Vicky here with us. They're going to first give everyone an update about what we are working on behind the scenes and our key milestones for the next quarter. All right? And prior to this session, we actually managed to get a Google form circulating around and collecting questions from all of you. We actually received a whopping 300 questions and feedback. And once again, I'd like to say thank you for your kind feedback and suggestions. We really appreciate it, and we will take everyone's feedback seriously and act on it. So in today's session, we're going to answer some of the most frequently asked questions from you all. And finally, towards the end of the session, we will open up the floor for the questions, if there's any. All right, without further ado, let's welcome our CEO Jensen and COO Vicky. Woohoo!
Hello. Hi, guys. Everyone, can you hear me well? Good. Okay, amazing. Yeah, I think past line was a bit choppy, right? So no worries. I think if everything's good here, then let's go. So I think first of all, thank you so much, right? Thank you to every one of you for being a massive support and a pillar within our community, right? I mean, honestly, we've been blown away, not just by the participation in Copper, but by the level of support that each of you gave us right behind the scenes. So, I mean, for those of you who were here like a month and a half back, right, that's when we actually started off this project. And then we had the NFT minting as a pre-seed participation in the DAO. Since then, right, behind the scenes, there were so many of you that came to us with connections, with ideas, with partnerships, and that put us in a better position to go forward with a public launch. And now with the public launch, we have an additional 3,500 more members, right, of the DAO. And what we love to welcome all of you to the DAO, and we would love to build this together, right, with each and every one of you. So I think massive thanks for this support. And again, I mean, we have a vision to be one of the most competitive super guilds in this ecosystem. Have one of the most amazing treasury growth, and providing a massive value add to our community of gamers as well as game developers through several things, right? Be it through financial services offerings, be it through building up, leading bleeding edge gaming infrastructure within this blockchain and metaverse space as well. So as of today, I think with the great treasury raise, both from the pre-seed, the seed, and as well as from the public launch, we're in a very strong start to achieve that. So massive kudos and thanks to everyone. So maybe just to give a bit of a update, right? I mean, state of the union, right? In that sense. So what has happened in the last week, right? So we had we ended our corporate launch around Tuesday last week, right? And since then, there's a few things that happened. So the first thing is we introduced staking. So for you folks who have not staked your Path tokens, please do so at our website. The APR for the first month is boosted, right? I think today, if you look at it, it's what, 800, 900%. And the key reason why we are doing this is actually to reward the public participation, right? Because I think we got a massive demand, and because of that, I think there was a huge what do you call it, uptick in the overall market cap. So what we've decided to do is, hey, look, to just reward this public participation, we've boosted the APR to literally help almost double, right, the tokens acquired, from the public launch. And the guys that benefit the most is actually the public participation, since 100% of the tokens are vested if you are part of this public participation. The rest are all either locked for a couple of months, or there's only a small percentage at TGE that was unlocked. So yeah, so that was the first thing that has happened. The two other things that has happened over the past week is that we have been actively hiring into key positions to deliver on our roadmap. So the idea is that, so as of today, we have around 8 full-time people in the executing team. We are looking to scale it to 15 people across multiple fronts. So be it from the deal flow investment front and the game partnerships front, be it from the guild building front, and also be it from the whole community building angle and the marketing front. And the last one is on the tech development side as well. So we are actively filling up these ranks to make sure that we could deliver with speed and with impact, right, on our roadmap. And the next thing, it's we've also been actively speaking already to a lot of different game protocols and partners. I think over the last week, we've spoken to around more than 10 different games already. And we are right now internally, we are evaluating what is the play for some of them. We'll announce some of the investment soon. And will be great also to get more discussions, right, in our Discords and Telegram by the community to be it introducing newer games, or if you even know some founders who are starting off, right, it could be not announced at some of these games, bring it to our attention, help us connect, and help us have this on our radar as well. So, and a lot of you are already doing that, and that's great. Let's just keep that coming. So that was what has happened in the last week. Okay, what's going to happen next week, right, in the next 7 days to come? Three key things alongside the continuous deal flow that we are looking at is one is on the allocation of the 30% bonus for people who have staked before the 8th of December. And this bonus, again, just to iterate, is from the community pool. So it follows the community pool vesting schedule. And this allocation will be processed within the next few days. Yep. And same goes for the bonus for people who participated with less than 200 USD in our copper. Because we understand that gas use is high, and we know that not everyone's a whale, not everyone's has big wallets, and for people who be it scholars, right, or be it people with small wallets who love the vision and want to be part of us, you just want to make sure that the gas fees didn't take too much out of your intended investment. Hence why we are doubling the portions that you folks are buying in. So that will happen within the next 7 days. Okay, and the most important thing that's going to come online as well is on the DAO governance activation. So this is the part where, as a Path token holder, you can get to be part, submit proposals, be part of these proposal votings, in some of the key decisions of the DAO. For example, some of the key ones that will be coming up soon is on one, whether we should provide a liquidity pool incentivization. And if so, is the best way doing it through an LP farm, or is it through a bonding mechanism, right? Which potentially actually can benefit the DAO Treasury better. So we'll put some of these proposals up for the community to start giving us their view, discussions, and to vote for a direction forward. So that will happen within the next 7 days. Okay, so that's the three key things. So then what's on the near term, right? In the next 1 to 2 months, 2-3 months, right? What's going to happen? Okay, so there's actually 6 things, right, that we want to put out here. So the first is on increasing our liquidity pool depth. And this is the one where we mentioned earlier. It could be providing an LP farm incentive or create a bonding incentive, right? For people who are not familiar with bonding, it's basically where we get liquidity providers to come and sell us their liquidity in exchange for a slightly discounted price on Path from the staking pool. And the benefit to the DAO is then, the DAO actually owns the liquidity, and this liquidity is not going to run anywhere. So it's like a permanent liquidity depth that the DAO can actually hold. So this is something that we're exploring. And the idea is that once we have the infrastructure and the agreements with some of the providers in place, like bonding, we have to use Ohm's marketplace, then we actually will put this out for a vote for the DAO. So hopefully in the next couple of days. The second key thing is on upgrading our staking contract. So I think many of you folks have brought up concerns over one, the staking sustainability, because the rewards can be quite big, and two, the gas cost, right, involved in restaking. So what we are trying to explore, it's on whether can we introduce an auto compounding feature for staking rewards, and also look into seeing where we can potentially bring this up for DAO governance on whether staking rewards after the first month should be locked or should it just be fully vested. So we leave that up to the DAO's decisions for that as well. So that's the second thing. The third thing is actually very important as a DAO, and I think a lot of other super guilds are trying to build that out. And we also have this as a key priority, where we are putting a live dashboard to show every asset and investment that the DAO has deployed into. So you think about it as a live beating number, right, of the DAO's treasury and assets. Be it whether it's still staying in stable coins, be it if it's sitting in a certain NFT investment or in some token investment, right? So that dashboard ideally would give any investor, any player, any participators a live view of how our DAO is performing. So that's key on the agenda as well. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is listing on centralized exchanges. So we have already been in talks with these people for about 2 weeks now. There's a lot of things to hash out across the lines to really bring this through. But one thing that we need to put a note is that for people who are also experienced in the space, I mean, to a general public, a lot of people feel that centralized exchanges listing might do good in terms of bringing volume and attention to the protocol. But I mean, for people who are even more experienced, sometimes some of these attentions can be, can be positive. It can be negative impact on the overall DAO. So what we'll do is we actually list down once we firm up with the exchanges the potential to get through. But before committing, we will actually get this out for a DAO vote as well to understand if are there more people in favor for centralized exchange listing or not. Okay, so that's point number 4. That one would probably, I mean, if I were to give a gauge in terms of a timeline, we might see the proposal going up for this decisioning around 2 weeks from now. So that's probably where the timeline might come up. Okay, so that's point number 4. Point number 5, in terms of what's happening in the near term, is the continuous growth of our game partnerships and our active scholarship program within the games. So an internal number that we're working towards is to get around 5,000 scholars by the end of January. And the key thing here is that these 5,000 scholars will not just be in Exi. Right? I think a lot of you who are following closely some of these play-to-earn games, the Exi yield is not the best yet. And also from a risk-reward perspective, we want to make sure that we do not have a too much risk or exposed to just one ecosystem. So the idea is that these 5K scholars will be growing across a myriad of games that we are partnering with. So today we already have 3, right? For people who have been following closely, we have Exi, we have Vulcan Forge, we have League of Kingdoms. And the idea is, we want to make sure that we still have a spread, and in fact a bigger spread moving forward. And the last key thing, right, that we actually want to bring out here is there's going to be, it's more like also like a tip, right? I mean, like a hint. What was a hint? It's like a surprise gift, right? For announcement, is that we are actually in talks with a team that is doing a massive GameFi infrastructure uh, build, and the idea is that we are reaching an agreement where these folks will be incubated by our DAO. Incubated meaning it's not just about capital deployment, but also ensuring very tight integration of the utilities, meaning that this project that is being incubated will also utilize PathDAO tokens in their tokenomics as well, uh, besides the native token. So there's this deal that we will announce in the next 2 weeks. But the great thing about this is that it's going to bring massive utility for Path tokens, and it's going to really bring Path game partners and community building to the next level. We'll give more information about this in the next week or two to come, right? So that's what's happening in the near term. All right, so I think basically that's the state of the DAO in its brief. I think what we'll do next is we would, I think everything empty would go through some of the list of questions that you folks have posted up, and we'll answer some of these first before opening the floor to a more, what do you call it, a more free for all question and answers. All right.
Okay. Yeah, let me do this then. Thanks, Jensen, for the quick announcement. And hello everyone. Once again, would like to thank everyone for your contribution and support. It's been a great ride, but it will be better in the near term. So I'm actually looking at the Excel file. I mean, a few hundred questions, but I think I will pick 3 to very quickly answer them and give you my view and actually our view. So the first question is actually from statutory EYP 4870. And the question is, AXI is the largest scholarship program that we have in Path, but obviously there's a dip in SLP prices, and how would that impact PathDAO? And how do we plan to actually offset the economic impact and make sure that we stay on track? So very good question. I think first thing to lay the context is that it's very hard to ignore AXI if you are a play-to-earn guild, just because it is really the pioneer and really the biggest player in the space. Personally, Jensen and I own Mystic AXI, and so we are rather close to the founding team and in the Mystic groups as well. But my view is that if you look at some of the growth numbers that AXI is showing, it is actually showing a negative growth, even in the last week, right, in terms of players. And that's actually a very worrying state, because if there's no player coming in, the breeding will come down, and obviously then the SLP price will come down, which is not good for us and not good for our scholars. So given that, despite the fact that AXI has obviously their land play and their gameplay V2 coming up, we have to think ahead and diversify our play, which we are already doing, right? Having presence in League of Kingdom and Vulcan Forge. So diversification is key. What we plan to do then is actually to diversify the player base. The moment we have a strong player base, not just within AXI, but across other genres, it's when we can actually seal the best deals in the seed rounds. And I've been saying a lot on how we create value for our treasury is not through scholarships, right? The best way for us to create value for PathDAO is always thinking about how do we participate in the early deals in some of the early games before the games actually hit the market. And having a strong player base across different genre is the best way for us to seal those deals. So that's essentially the gameplay and the strategy that we deploy. A very quick answer to the first question on how we handle AXI. Second question I would take is on player base. This question is from Kairos. It's about how we are active today in Southeast Asia, but do we have plans to actually expand our reach beyond Southeast Asia? First, I would like to iterate the fact that it is very important to have concentrated community, right? That means imagine all your scholars are coming from one single area. The benefit is huge because first, they can help each other. Second, they will refer their friends and family to our guild, which help with our growth. Third, because they have a similar language and culture, it's way easier for them to interact and have a strong family culture and feels. And finally, because of all the factors above mentioned, it will reduce the churn, right? Which is very important to us guilds because every player that we bring in, we put in a lot of effort to train and to interview them, right? So the last thing we want is for them to leave us. So having concentrated base is very important. But that being said, we are actually exploring other pockets of regions as well, right? So number one, we are actively talking to one of the biggest Bangladeshis player base and potentially bringing in 10,000 players to our guild. We will disclose more detail as we finalize the deal. Number two, I think one of our most active philosophers also got in touch in terms of how potentially bringing in some of the traditional gamers in the States to PathDAO, right? And some of these things are very important because players from different regions have different spending power, language spoken, and the different types of genres of games that they play. And diversification, like I said, is very important for our guild to seal the best deals in some of the early rounds of games. So yeah, the short answer then is yes, the focus will still be Southeast Asia, but we are not neglecting the fact that it's important to expand. That's the second question. And the last question I would take is from spiderfee.eve on what's the key value driver being sought in investment and how does that play into growth strategy? I was thinking super hard about how, what kind of investment framework that we could do. And I think the beauty of DAO is that we always leverage the collective wisdom of the community. As we speak, right, so many community members have DM'd me on some of the potential deals that we could pursue. So that's amazing. But in terms of, what are the sort of framework that we think about whether we want to put our money into these deals, it boils down to two things, right? Number one, the big names, and number two, the expected value of things. Let me start with the first one, big names. The way a guild operates is that if you're not in the big games, you're not perceived to be big. And being big is very important, which I will explain later, right? So some of the big games obviously are like Xe or like Illuvium. And it's rather crucial to have big presence in those games because first, the scholars typically are attracted to big games. So if you don't have presence in big games, typically you can't attract scholars. Number two, if you don't have presence and experience in big games, it's very hard to convince some of the newer games about your contribution, right? So if you say that, hey, I have the largest guild in Illuvium, and our guild is the best performing guilds across the leaderboard, it is how you sort of convey your contribution of your guild to some of the newer ecosystems and convince them to take your money, right? So big name is very important, although sometimes the expected value of investment to always participate in big names, right? At least a portion of our funds should go to big names. The second thing that then we look at is expected value, right? Expected value means that if I put in $1 today, statistically speaking, what's the return that I should expect, right? And we're always trying to amplify that, right? As an investment council. So we always look at a couple of things like the founder, the traction, the genre, the gameplay, and what's the price of the seed round that we are participating in. And that's how we deploy our funds. So these are sort of the two lenses that we look at before we invest in deals. Yep, that's pretty much it. I'll take a pause here. Jensen, do you want to take more questions? Yeah.
Yep. Let me do that, right? So I think a question from John of All Trades. I think you mentioned about the sticking APR, right? And do you intend to keep the 900 to 1,000 APR constantly, or will it decrease over time? So the 900 to 1,000 APR that you've seen in the first month, that's mainly to actually reward people who came in from the public participation, right? And it helps to reduce the cost base fundamentally, right? So that's the key reason why we did a boosted API at the start. And you got to understand that PathDAO tokens are actually limited, right? We only have 1 billion tokens max minted, so it's a hard cap on these tokens, right? So meaning that the tokens given out through the staking pool is basically tokens given out by the Treasury to the community, right? If that's how you can think about it. So, but to ensure that it's sustainable in the long term, it will not be at that rate. We are looking at least in Q1 to be at least around 200 APR, 200% APR, to still distribute as much value to the earlier supporters, right? But then I think the longer run, it would actually potentially decrease. I think you will see a lot of protocols after 6 months of stability, APRs tend to fall within the 40% range, right? But I think that's something that we could we need to reassess and see how to ensure balance what do you call it, sustainability of the staking reward pool, while also helping with incentivizing people to lock up their tokens, right? While fundamentals are still being built. So that's to answer your question, John. The next question, which is quite interesting, right? This is from Rao, and I think a few others touched this a bit. There's a question on, are we planning to buy back Path from the market? Looks really undervalued. Now, a great thing to understand DAOs like us, right, is that there's always an intrinsic value behind a token, right? Because basically, if you think about it, if you divide your current market cap, you multiply your current you divide your market your market cap by your tokens in circulation. You should theoretically get your price of the token, right? And you can compare that against the treasury value that we have. And what's going to happen is there might be points where in a very bear market, the token price might fall below the intrinsic value of the DAO, right? Somehow the market just doesn't see that, right? And then what will happen is, yes, there will be a DAO buyback because it just makes sense, right? It's like operating like a typical corporation in real life. There will be a buyback when its value falls within the intrinsic value. But how we are looking at this intrinsic value, we would not look at the 1 month runway of circulating tokens. Because if you think about it, right, your first month circulating tokens today is around 50 million, but it will increase quite significantly over the next month because of the staking pool rewards that has been massive, right? So I think the idea is that the way we might calculate this intrinsic value might be looking at the circulating token supply within the next 6-month rolling period horizon. So that's a way for us to assess whether the price on the market is lower than the intrinsic value of the tokens, and that's where we initiate the DAO buyback of the tokens. Right, and then when the fundamentals increase and over time, price actions follow, and that's where we can do another fundraise at a higher valuation. So that's how the DAO treasury will benefit as well. Right, so I think that should answer your question, Rao. Right, a question by Stonks6993. There's a question on how does partnership with Merit Circle work? Are they not a competitor? Now, I think that's a very interesting view, right? That some other super guilds in the space, can potentially be competitors, in terms of maybe in the future getting players, or competitors in terms of game partnerships, right? But I think just to let you folks know, right, the space right now, it's growing so fast that there's just so much room for everyone, right? And what's even happening right now behind the scenes is that we're working closely with Merit, with potentially a few other super guilds as well, to just help each other to share best practices, right, and to ensure that each other are building out well in the space. And what's happening behind the scenes is, there are times where partnerships require multiple participation of super guilds. If you put yourself in a position of a game, right? Let's say you're launching a Dota on chain, right? And if you want to penetrate this ecosystem, you can't just partner with one guild. right? Because that's not sufficient in terms of the player base that you can get. So what you will do is you actually partner with several, right? Not just one or two. You partner with several super guilds, right? And that's the reason why having friendships with other super guilds would help the DAO a lot. Is because of the deal flow that we can share between each other. So that is the key benefits of having partnerships within this circle. Yep. But I think in the long run, each of us will develop our own differentiator, and Path, our key differentiators going forward is our ability to build out value add into the ecosystem, right? So I think we talk a lot around our financial services and fintech offerings for play to earn gamers, and as of today, no other super guilds are looking at that yet, right? Maybe they will start, but I think right now no one's even doing that. And in the future, we are also building up like things like gamer identities, game marketplaces, right? In a sense, or launch pads, right? So those kind of stuff will further value add and potentially will be a differentiator for Path in the longer run. Right. So that is that. Maybe I'll take one more question and then maybe take another 3 and then we can open up to the floor, right? One more question is on this. Okay, Ryan Nor 89. Your question is on, how do you plan on getting the best gamers to engage as scholars? Now, this is a very good question because right now, as of today, we might see a lot of gamers coming in because from a lower income standpoint, right, to participate in this play to earn ecosystem. But in the long run, as more and more guilds are forming, there'll be a more and more intensity in terms of competing for getting gamers on board, right? Or be it as scholars as well, right? So what are some of the plans, right? Okay, so I think Wiki have mentioned earlier as well, where one of the key things that we do as a guild compared to other guilds, right, is offering our player base a very significant portion of their earnings, right? So as of today, we are offering them 70% cut, right? If you look across other super guilds, that's probably the highest in the market, right? And the reason why we are doing this is because we believe in talent retention, and we believe that the yield coming from the scholarship programs is actually not the key source of alpha for the DAO. We want to make sure that we retain the players, maintain the best players in the ecosystem, and we generate alpha from private participations in sales from nascent games, right? So that's the model of how we are working. And beyond just this higher pay, right? We have massive what they call value added services that we're bringing to gamers down the road. So like one of the key things that we're doing is that there's going to be a platform coming into play where players can have their performance tracked, right? And then that we can use this information to provide them financial services. Right? And this is something additional value add that we experience within our guild that they cannot find in other guilds, right? So this kind of additional value add that we layer in would help us retain the best talents and also to get newer talents on board. Yep. So I think that's that question. Wiki, maybe you take 3 more, right? And then we can open it up to the floor.
Yep. Okay. I think one question, I forgot who asked, but essentially about the fintech idea, right? So maybe let me elaborate a little bit more on fintech. We see a very natural extension of a fintech value proposition to our scholars and even beyond our scholars, right, in our other guilds, just because purely based on observation, we see at least more than 50% of our scholars are underbanked, right? So you either do not have bank accounts, you do not have credit scores, you can't borrow money, you don't have healthcare insurance access, etc. So we think the problem or the pain point is clear. Now the question is, how do we do it, right? I think the first thing that we need to do is to first understand across all the potential solutions that we could do. So savings, invest, insurance, lending, etc. what are the key ones that we could do in terms of roadmap, right? So that would entail that basically means that we need to talk to our scholars and understand, what are the most critical to start with, which we will actually very soon kickstart the process. Number two, you folks probably know that Ajaib, one of the biggest fintech player in Indonesia, is our partner. And that is crucial because we will then work very closely with them and pick their brain, as well as their regulatory experience, to understand how best we could navigate the landscape and in Southeast Asia, and specifically in Indonesia. So that's that's item number two that we want to work with our partner. And I think then the third thing then is, once we know sort of what is the solution, and number two, what is the lay of the land, we then think about developing a minimum viable product, an MVP, to roll out. And personally, I think we should target that rollout in quarter one of 2022, which we will update everyone with more detail once we finalize things. So that's around the fintech bit that we see. Then there is another question. One second. Okay, there's another question around the gas fee related matters, right? Because I think one of the biggest question is, Ethereum, obviously the gas fee is rather high. We do not, we think there's a possibility that we could potentially migrate to a separate chain for the benefit of our community. If gas fees become a very big problem, right? Especially as time goes by, the utility of Path tokens will actually become very important, and potentially means that people will use Path tokens on a daily basis, right? Rather than just staking once a week or once a month. So we recognize the problem, and our dev team is actually actively evaluating, what are the potential solutions to get around this. But I guess on the other side of the coin is we also have to evaluate, what are the best things we could do, right, for the dev team. Is it better to develop a new product or to actually do a migration, right? So it's a trade-off exercise that we have to run, but it's actually on our roadmap. I think the final question is around, what's the idea around, should we invest in in-game assets or just like tokens or like the equity of games in general, right? The short answer is that it depends, right? The rule of thumb of investment in PathDAO is always about expected value. So for example, if we see sandbox prices skyrocket and the land of the sandbox actually stay rather undervalued, and that kind of mental exercise or quick comparison of numbers might prove that actually investing in the sandbox lands might be having a higher expected value. So it really depends, but generally depends on our experience. Tokens of games typically have a better return, just because of the higher liquidity, as well as the fact that usually people can add more utilities to it, right? And there's a typical more spike factors, for example, if they get listed on centralized exchange, etc. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jensen and Vicky, for your awesome sharing. I think your vision and goal is going to propel our growth tremendously next year. And I'm just so amazed by what we are building in PathDAO, and I'm sure our community members are this. Okay. We actually still have got about 20 minutes left. We will actually open up the floor now. So guys, if you have any questions or if your questions did not get selected, you may actually unmute us. So who would like to go first? Please type in the chat. Okay, we have a question from Turkey. Turkey, would you like to unmute and ask yourself?
I think we can read your question, right? Your question, Cookie, is how do you guys determine when to cash out on the returns? Say if you invest in token IDOs for games, right? That's a very good question, right? So I think the idea behind DAO's investment thesis is that, again, we keep mentioning expected value, right? And one way to look at it is whether a price of a token far outweighs its fundamental growth. Right. So there's two ways to do that, right? So we always have, whenever we invest in, let's say, a pre-seed or IDO, um, and if there's already a major multiple from the gains, mainly driven by market price action, but not because of fundamental improvisation, then those will be the times where we actually would divest more of the tokens. Right? There might be a portfolio management where we might hold a moonshot back, right? Maybe 20% left or 30% left to hold for a potential sudden moonshot. But the majority of it we would divest or reinvest based on how far has fundamentals catch up to that price hike. So that is one of the key things. And the idea is that we also want to work very closely, right? We will have a team of analysts and people who engage actively with these games, and to be constantly updated, right? Of like what's happening. Is there something big that's going to be launched, and then we can be always on point with some of these potential moves. So that's how we can do it.
Yeah, maybe just to add, right? So typically when we make an investment, we will have a price target. So let's say the price target is 10x from now, right? But that doesn't mean that we are static. So let's say even if it hits 10x, it's very critical to then evaluate at the state where, let's say it's already 10x, but if we take the money out, do we have a better opportunity elsewhere, right? Or that particular investment still has a better expected value compared to the rest. And active participation in the community of other games is extremely critical for us to harness the first-hand information for us to make the kind of decision. So there's no static understanding or a static decision on if 10x we will sell everything, but it's more of a sort of a dynamic understanding of the expected value. Yep, thanks.
Right. Someone asked, I think Vasilev, you mentioned about the exchange listing, right? So we gave an update earlier. The idea behind the exchange listing is twofold. One is that we've already begun talks with them about 2 weeks ago, but it takes time, right? It takes time to do the duties, getting all the legal stuff in place and whatnot, and to negotiate the contracts. But one thing we wanted to do is also to put up this decisioning to the DAO for a governance vote. And the reason why is that not all centralized listing is fully beneficial to the DAO, be it from a price action perspective or be it also from an overall narrative of the DAO, right? So I think what we'll do is we'll list down some of these pros and cons. Once we have a more solid entrance with the centralized exchanges, and then we'll get the DAO to vote on whether we should go on a SEX or not. Okay, so that will happen likely within a 2 weeks timeline from today, ideally. In terms of the voting on the proposal voting. NFT Carlo, you asked if there's an estimated value of all treasury assets right now. Yes, we do, because I think majority of the assets that was raised are not deployed yet. So I think Vicky, do we have the exact numbers? Maybe we could just let these folks know, right? I think we typed it out in the announcement that day, right?
Yeah, let me take a look. I think what we have as we stand in terms of USDC is 16.3 million of USD. We deployed around 1.6 million separately of USDC into a Uniswap pool that's currently trading live. We also have 230,000 USDC from Ignition pending to come in. I think has already came. Yeah,
That's why
already came in, right? Yeah.
5 million now.
So yeah, you just 16.5 then in terms of USDC, and we also invest roughly 65 Ethereum across different ecosystems. So if you add everything up, that's roughly 18 to 19 million plus in terms of our treasury value.
And the key thing to note, I think that Barry did a type there to help you folks do it. I think the key thing to note is that moving forward and this is very high on our priority, is the ability to put up a dashboard for all of you folks to see live, right? What is the current asset value and the assets they were deploying across the games and the NFT ecosystems, right? So that will come in very, very soon, and that's key priority for us. What's that? Any planned utility for current NFT holders for the leaf, right? So I think there's always utility within our community, right? I think for you folks who participated in the cool games or community events
Refer
that
Rush.
Refer Rush and I think some of the Santa stuff, right? That Path has been doing. If you notice that NFT holders get a much larger proportion of the airdrops or the gifts that have been given away, right? So basically, the reason why we do this is because the NFT holders were one of the earliest backers, and we want to attach value to the Genesis mint, right? For those badges. So that's what's happening, right? So whenever there's a community event, you will see that the NFT holders will get a much larger benefit from these events. But moving forward, as we expand our utility into the metaverse, in the metaverses and other games, right? We'll try to bring up more and more utility for this. But I think moving forward, but in terms of like utility into other ecosystems, this will probably come more from the token perspective rather than from the NFT perspective, mainly due to its fungibility, right? And from a code standpoint. So yeah, so I think like if you think about it, right, the utility for tokens would be for integration of into other ecosystems or within our own ecosystem of our game marketplace launch pads or within the financial service. That's where the token will have utility. But for the NFTs, it's more from a community angle, right? To participate in our events, participate in assets that we own within the gaming ecosystem. So that's where the utility for the NFTs will come from. Yeah.
So maybe one thing to clarify in terms of treasury value, right? Because if you notice on our tokenomics, we reserve, I believe, 15% of the tokens of Path tokens in our treasury. And technically speaking, if you think about the 15 million multiplier of the current market price of the tokens, and that's technically sitting in the treasury and which should technically add into our treasury value. But I think in terms of industry practice, we usually don't take the native token in the treasury into account when it comes to the value of the treasury. But yeah.
Okay, and then there's a question on how do you guys intend to address scholar financial inclusivity? I imagine regulations would be a problem, especially increasing negative sentiments towards crypto in some countries. Right, so Kappa, I think that's a very good point, right? But so there's two parts on the financial inclusivity that we're trying to build up, and in terms of the idea that we have, right? So the first thing that we always need before we can do any of these things is data, and data around the income and the performance of these players or these gamers, because this income data would help inform our credit risk models, right? So there's two parts that generally gets regulated, right? This one is the whole deposit taking from people, and second is the credit giving, because you're actually charging people interest, right? But there are other parts of financial inclusion that is easier to be deployed. For example, micro insurances, where there might be a time point where if you partner easily, right, with a provider of insurance within some of these key countries that our scholars are in, our gamers are in, we could easily just take a percentage cut, right? We give the scholars an option. If you take 5% off, we can provide you certain insurance benefits, right? For you and your potentially your family, right? So that's some of the easier financial inclusion services that could be deployed at the start. But then moving forward, what we will do is then we'll work very closely, right, with regulators, and that's the reason why we in fact have partners in real life. And I think that's where the strength of this DAO has, right, compared to any other DAOs. I mean, the background of myself and Vicky, right, we came from a management consulting environment and world, right. We've worked literally with CEOs of major banks across the region, especially in Southeast Asia, and we have massive connections, right, within the space. So for us to actually work out, both from a product manufacturing standpoint all the way to how do we navigate the regulatory structure and adoption by financial institutions in real life, that's something that we have an advantage to deploy. But right now, it's still nascent. And I think the team is still trying to figure out like what's the best way to work forward, right, in terms of planning out this whole financial pathway. But yeah, so give us time. I think probably you will hear a key announcement on this fintech process within a month from now, right? That's where we will start pushing out our MVP testings. BlackBerry, you mentioned, why do we not count Path tokens in total treasury value, right? I mean, we can, but it overinflates the treasury. So if you look at our Gnosis wallet today, the price looks a bit too staggering, right? So I think the way we do it is, yes, actually, you can assume that the treasury value has that, but then I think it's just standard. DAO practice, right? You just never take into account your own native tokens when you do your accounting. But the idea is that yes, in the future, these treasury tokens have value, because what happens is then, if we need another major fundraising round, we would take out a portion of these tokens from the treasury and sell it, right, at a higher valuation, and then the money will come back to the treasury in exchange, right? So yes, so I did that. Basically, what is owned by the treasury, in effect, it's a lot of gunpowder, but it can only be unlocked in the future, right? Basically. Hatanas, right? You mentioned what's the progress of being listed in a larger exchange like Gate.io, KuCoin. So I think just a note to you folks, right? When we talk about exchanges, we never release names. It's because it's part of the communications process, right? It's we cannot tell anyone who we are talking to until the exchange themselves announce that partnership. So I hope you folks understand that we can never release the names. We cannot even hint, right? Is it a big exchange or a small exchange that we are talking to, right? So I think that's just to set the expectations right for the community. What else? Other questions are there? Mix. I wouldn't answer that question, right? So that's, again, I mentioned we won't touch anything to do with centralized exchange names, right? That's something that we cannot mention. NFT holdings to be accounted for in the treasury value. That's a very good question, right, Carlo? I think, but what we can do, and then I think a lot of people in the NFT world, what they do is they use the floor price for NFTs as an indicator of value. So although sometimes some of the assets that we own might be a bit more premium, but just from an accounting purpose, we will actually use the floor price to draw the value line at. And basically, when you're at floor in the NFT market, that's where the highest liquidity is, right? So it's fair to actually use that as an indicator of price. And in fact, I think if you look at a lot of other NFT portfolio trackers, right? Like and for all of you NFT degens, right, out there, stuff like, I forgot what's the name. I actually forgot the name. I used to use it often. But basically, that those trackers, they use a floor price as an indicator. So it's the same concept that we would use as well. So that, right, you mentioned if the total treasury value is higher than a Path market cap, we have to buy Path token from the market with treasury. So the way to compare it is not exactly at the value. Actually, no, you can as well. But basically, yes, in a sense, right? So basically, if compared to the basically, if our Path tokens on market is too cheap, right? Too cheap when we look at the 6 months rolling price. I mean, so you look at the circulated market cap on the 6 months forward basis, and if the value of the tokens are lower than that targeted price, then yes, the DAO will initiate a buyback, because it just makes sense. It's literally buying cheap stock. In fact, I would just buy back, right, for my own pocket as well. But yes, the DAO would do that. Right, pigs, shout out. Oh, in terms of this chat, I mean, I would love to chat with you folks every day, but you gotta understand that building this takes a lot of work, and in fact, sometimes you might not even see some of us right on the chat as often because there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes, right? From hiring, from operations, right? So we have community managers in place, and I think that a lot of our own community people are around as well to share ideas, have discussions. But what we are trying to do is we probably do some of these chats maybe on a 2-week frequency basis, give updates, have ideas, probably maybe even a more open mic session, right? If possible, we might test something down the road where it's just like we get you folks to come on board, just open mic, right? And also maybe now we are at a formative stage, so I understand it's a bit of updates. But going forward, we would love to have some productive discussions, right, about strategy, about ideas, about opportunities as well. So we can do that more often. Ajuma karaoke probably not so much. It's probably too much of an Asian thing, right? So yeah, maybe not that. But yes, we'll try to see if we can aim for a bi-weekly basis. Maybe at times we can even do some additional weeks in some maybe critical periods. But yeah, for now maybe we can try to lock in a bi-weekly basis. Zuval, I think in terms of the office, we would do it in real life presence for our gaming guild segment, right? So we will actually have real life events planned out to get community activated. We will also do a lot of game partnerships and live events for our game partners, and that will happen live. So that's how we build our in real life presence. But in terms of operations, I mean, the office is just an office lah. So that's going to be more of a private thing. But in terms of presence, there will be times where we will be on the ground. And in fact, if you folks are around, feel free to come around, right, in some of these events and say hi. BlackBerry, in terms of how do we contribute and help the DAO, right? I think one of the key things apart from new people coming on board and welcoming them and teaching them how this DAO works and what we're doing, right? If you folks can contribute, right, and some of you are already doing that, feel free to contribute in whatever means, right? So one, some people are coming to us with connections to games and strategic partners. It can be beyond games, it can be people like communities in real life, gaming communities in real lives, certain infrastructure player, right, within the ecosystem, be it in real life or within the crypto space that could value add to the DAO, right? So having these connections and bridging them to us is one of the key reasons why DAOs is a very amazing model. The second thing would be on, I think one of the key things is once we start having the governance proposals out, right? I think it's important for everyone to participate and in the spirit of the DAO, right? To ensure that the governance decisions are not just executed by just a handful of people, but it's also it's a collective decision, right? So that's the second thing. And then yes, the third thing, right, is that there's a lot of other ways you can value add. So someone actually reached out to us earlier on he's great at copywriting, right? He's great at writing out materials and he wants to help. So we welcome you, right? Connect with us, talk to us, right? And we'll see how we can, work together to come up with, to give you folks ability to actually contribute. Be it marketing, be it writing, be it from partnerships, whatever sense, right? I think that's the beauty of a DAO and how we try to push this out together. Okay, but I'll probably take two more last questions, right? And then maybe we can continue some of this chat in the text, and then I think and then probably don't take too much of everyone's time as well. In terms of how do we intend to do marketing, right? Like, so I think there's two parts of marketing, right? There's one part of marketing that is around how do we bring the name of our DAO out there, right? And we are continuously doing this. So we already have a circle of influencers, around 70 plus strong, that are actually invested in the DAO. So these people actually have an allocation, right, in the DAO, and they are basically biased and vested in terms of ensuring that this DAO is successful. So whenever we have a key announcement or a key progress milestone that we want to get out there, these are our distribution marketing channels that we would push through, right? And we have been actively and successfully pushing through over the past week as well. So that's one of the key marketing. There's a second angle to marketing, which I'm not sure if it relates to your question, but I just want to give a bit of a flavor to the wider folks, right? Which is marketing for our partners. So the cool thing about this blockchain gaming is that, yes, you have a lot of on-chain participation, but there's a lot of gamers out there in the normie space, right, that we can actually reach out to. So we are actually engaged, we are actively developing solutions, right, for some of our game partners where we do active digital marketing, where we do active in real life community events as well, right, to get some of these games that we're invested in out there, and get more player base and help activate them, right? So there's another key aspect of marketing that our execution team is actually doing, right? Hey, Murad, I mean, explaining what PathDAO does, I mean, we've done it a couple of times. So what we can do, right? I mean, just for you to, it's probably easier if I'll send you this link. It's a link to our Gitbook, right? In it literally tells you everything, right? Head to toe of what we are and what we are doing. And hopefully that gives you a bit of understanding. And if you still don't understand, feel free to ask in the general chat, right? There are a lot of people who are willing to help you there. Okay, so I think Kappa Slayer, right? Sorry, last question, right? It's PathDAO umbrella team incorporated as an entity. Now the DAO in itself is not an entity because a lot of jurisdictions don't really have that yet, right? I mean, I know that Wyoming in the States have a ability to do that, but there's a bit of limitations in terms of the participations in the DAO. But I think until more favorable regulations for DAO comes out, the DAO as of today lives within just purely in the blockchain space, right? And we are regulated through smart contract. The whole operations will be through a smart contract. In terms of the execution team, so the team that I'm leading, with the DAO, yes, we are registered. Yeah, so that's basically I hope that answer your question with that. And when will we get to see Puff's picture? Uh, yeah, you see that Puff picture in the chat, man. That is Puff. All right. Okay, great. Guys, so I think it's already it's been 1 hour for this town hall, right? I mean, I hope that what with the updates that we have given in terms of what's the next key things that we're pushing on, what we are planning to do, will give a bit of flavor of what we are doing. Along the way, we have more of these. We'll update you guys more frequently, and I think one of the key asks is that we are a DAO, right? And the key heart of a DAO is a community. So let's work together, right, to really build an amazing community together, both from in terms of the discussions that we have, how do we make it productive, but also in terms of welcoming people, right? Like how do we make sure that we are a DAO that new members can come and join and also contribute in an easier and in an amiable way, right? So great. Thanks for the support again, and let's keep building and let's fucking go. Right, cheers, guys, and I hope everyone have a great week ahead.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.